Hi, welcome to another episode of Foxy Little Nuggets, your daily helping of political absurdity, institutional incompetence and economic self-harm, all neatly packaged so you don't have to rummage through Westminster's bins to try and find out what's going on. First one is devolution, and we're going to call this Burnham Knows Best. And full marks, actually, to the Tories, because the Conservative regional mayors, Ben Houchen and Paul Bristow, they're exposing what Andy Burnham apparently means by devolution. And it isn't what most other people means by devolution. And it's very sneaky. And it's very, well, there's some nastiness to it. Houchen said that if his region received additional funding, he wanted to return some of it to local people, doing this through a tax cut or encouraging investment and stimulating the economy. Unfortunately, he was reportedly at least told that this would not be permitted. So Burnham's version of local freedom appears to be that regional leaders may make their own decisions, provided they make the decisions that Andy Burnham tells them to make. That's not devolution, that's remote-controlled municipal government with Andy Burnham's finger on the remote control. But then it gets worse. Paul Bristow then went through in the minutiae of the entire bill and found hidden deep in the small print that successful regions may not even be allowed to retain the rewards of their success, should they be efficient, save money and show how things could be better and have a little bit left over that they could then invest in other areas. That money will then be taken from them and handed over to wasteful councils, or socialist councils as we like to call them. Whitehall will congratulate them on their efficiency, then confiscate the money, basically give them a good kicking for being efficient. In other words, regional leaders are being encouraged to be wasteful. You couldn't make it up, and I'm not. In fact, it's hardly surprising. Socialism. No wonder the Prime Minister prefers leaving the country rather than answering questions. Story 2 is BP giving up, basically packing their bags and running away to the circus. And by circus, I mean America and the Middle East. Because BP's new chief executive, a woman by the name of Meg O'Neill, has warned that the North Sea is no longer competitive and has urged Burnham to reconsider the windfall tax on oil and gas producers. BP's now selling up. It's a fire sale. Well, they shouldn't say that around oil and gas, but it's basically a fire sale of everything that they've invested for the last 60 years. I was there. I was a young man, and I remember the big blitz of North Sea oil and gas just coming in. I think the first pumped oil was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was something like 74. Huge bonus. Now we're going to do this, that, and the other. We're going to have all these wonderful things. And in the end, it just used it to pay the dole, didn't they? But basically, they're going because they're being taxed effectively at 78%. They can't run the business. Governments are calling it a windfall tax, but actually what it is a big sign saying, please invest in another country of your choice, but for heaven's sake, don't invest in Britain. Now, of course, we still need oil and gas. Most people's houses are heated by gas or cooking by gas, etc. We use gas in our power supply. Generators burning to create electricity. Oil, of course. The problem with oil is that politicians are really, really dumb. They seem to equate oil with petrol and diesel. No, oil is everything. From my glasses, to my computer, to the paint on my walls, to modern microscopes, to medicines, you name it. Oil has got 1,000,001 uses. And even if everybody had an electric car, we would still need to pump exactly the same amount of oil. Although nobody has yet worked out what the hell we're going to do with the petrol. You can't let it evaporate, that's worse for the environment than burning it. And you can't store it, it's an explosive risk. So, what are we going to do? If only there was some way of perhaps utilising that petrol in an efficient manner that could create work. An engine, perhaps. That'd be a good idea. I told you, politicians, retarded, one and all. Story 3 is the NHS's most exhausted executive. This is a former Labour Party candidate, and he's been jailed for 4 years for using fraudulent qualifications to secure 13 senior NHS positions. His name is Amran Hussain, because of course it is, and he's fabricated degrees from Oxford and Harvard and Birkbeck. Now, these degrees are actually quite easy to check. You phone up the college and say, I have a young man here, his name is Joe Bloggs, whatever the name is. He's claiming that he got a degree from Oxford in 1979, or whenever. And they will go, tippity on the grid. We have no one of that name being given a degree by this university. Thank you very much. Oi, Joe Bloggs. Off you go. But no, did they check? No. Here's what's weird. Everyone working for the NHS is subject to a DBS check. How did they miss this? Unless, of course, they weren't looking. And why wouldn't they look? Well, is it because he's got brown skin and they didn't want to appear racist by checking his story? Seems possible, doesn't it? Doesn't seem impossible, put it that way. Well, apparently the deception has cost the public £168,000. My giddy aunt. He applied for more than 2,000 NHS jobs, and he was finally exposed when one trust finally performed a radical administrative procedure known as, let's just phone up and check if this is true. Oh dear God help us. Well, there we go. Walter Mitty. Dangerous man. Thankfully, only administrative roles, not medical. Although it wouldn't be the first time the NHS has allowed unqualified medical roles to be filled. Clacton versus the establishment is story 4. I can't count. 4. Which is Farage. He's doing ever so well in Clacton. He's expected to win it by a long chalk. 73% in the polls, doing very well. Count Binface on 20%. None of the others matter. He's got a good chance, of sort of rubbing the establishment's face in it. And they don't like that. The establishment dislike him because he's very popular. They call him populist, but that's the same as popular. But what's amazing is that Westminster appear rather less concerned about the constitutional purity of by-elections. I mean, after all, one was used to bring Andy Burnham in to become Prime Minister. But all of a sudden they're saying, oh, well, it's not a legitimate contest because we didn't stand. You had the option to stand. You chose not to stand. It's not our fault. Or not anyone's fault. You choose not to stand. You can't make them moan about the result. There we go. Clacton's voters don't care. They're going to return Farage. And he's going to walk back into Parliament with his finger up, isn't he, going, you, FRO. And what can they do? It's a bugger, isn't it? And that'll really annoy all of them, but that's fine. The Uni Party can seethe in their own juices as far as I'm concerned. And finally, Christmas is arriving in Bridlington tomorrow. It's almost 5 months early. The East Yorkshire seaside town is staging Bridmas Day, complete with beachside carols, a Christmas market, festive films, Santa occupying a summer grotto on the sand. Residents are being encouraged to combine Christmas jumpers with flip-flops. Some locals have complained that August is far too early to begin celebrating Christmas. They're probably right, but somebody needs to tell that to Tesco's. Nevertheless, after a day of fraudulent politicians, ruinous taxation, fake devolution, fake NHS administrators, at least Santa appearing on Bridlington Beach seems somewhat positive, although I suspect he may well be very hot in all that fake fat. Assuming, of course, it is fake fat. Keep calm, apply the sun cream, and don't annoy Santa by asking for a bike. Times are hard, you know. Thanks a lot. Bye.